Welcome to another episode of the podcast Relatively Famous. I'm your host, Chip White, and you might say, well, why do you have a podcast about interviewing relatives of famous people? Well, my sister is Vanna White of Wheel of Fortune, and I think that qualifies me to have a podcast. Today, I'm super excited about who our guest is. I had a chance to meet, and actually didn't meet his son, but I got to see his son play recently at JT Floors in Elotes, Texas. Amazing musician. He's been making a splash on the scene for the last 5 years. Marcus King. If you haven't listened to Marcus, we will put some links in the notes, but go Google Marcus King. And today we get the chance to meet his dad, Marvin King. And before we meet Marvin, though, I do want to thank visitmyrtlebeach.com, our sponsor. And they want you to know about a new show called Traveling the Spectrum, streaming live on Peacock, coming out very soon. It deals with traveling with and living with kids with autism. And Traveling the Spectrum is a 6-part series that offers intimate glimpse into it and why Myrtle Beach is such a great destination for families with autism and people living on the spectrum. So if you want to know more about that and how to get a vacation for your family that is with an autistic child, go to visitmyrtlebeach.com. You can learn more there. That's visitmyrtlebeach.com. And be sure to check out the series Traveling the Spectrum on Peacock. So let's welcome our guest today, Mr. Marvin King.
Relatively Famous Podcast with Chip White.
So I'm super excited to have Marvin King on the show today. Marvin, welcome.
Hey, Chip, how's it going? Good to see you.
It's good, man. I appreciate your time today. When we talked on the phone, I had mentioned I just got to see your son recently at JT Floors, and he's amazing. And then I started looking up relatives, and I went, oh, look, his dad's got his own band. This should be great. Tell me a little bit about your band.
We're a 3-piece band. John Glancy on drums, Pete Cash on bass, and we're playing mostly local in the area. I want to try to stretch out a little more, like Charleston, Charlotte, up in Asheville. But we got the Facebook page, Marvin King Reviews, the name of the band.
We need to get you down at the House of Blues in North Myrtle Beach there.
Yeah. Yeah, my buddy used to play with me, was in the house band there for a while.
Okay.
Bowen.
So like I said, I've kind of been following your son for a while when he kind of burst on the scene with his first 2 albums that Dan Auerbach produced, and got a chance to see him live. You guys are from Greenville, South Carolina?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I was born here in 1953 on the Air Force Base. I'm an Air Force brat. So I moved to Greenville from Germany in 1969. And it was a culture shock because in Germany I was learning Purple Haze, Sunshine of Your Love. And when I got here, they weren't playing that kind of music, and they didn't look like me. So it was really strange when I went to Carolina High School for my junior year of high school and senior year of high school. But looking back, I wouldn't trade this for anything because of the good people that I still have in my life, good friends from here.
So when you came, you said you guys were in Germany. You came over in the late '60s. Things were definitely changing. Had you been doing music with a band in Germany? Did you just kind of pick up from there?
I had a band in Germany. I was only 14, but we played at the Airmen's Club, the Black Cat Lounge. I had a drummer that sang and a bass player. The captain's son, and the drummer was another sergeant's son. So we were NCOs, and his dad was an officer. But that was my first gig at the Black Cat Lounge in Ramstein Air Force Base, Germany.
Okay. Now, I understand your father was a musician also.
Oh yeah, yeah. He all my life he was a weekend warrior. He played every weekend. Bill King and the Country Gentlemen, and it's funny they interviewed him on AFN, his Armed Forces Network, goes out all over Europe, and they interviewed him about the NCO Club or whatever, because he would bring acts like Johnny Cash, Barbara Mandrell, um, acts like that, and then he would book them in there, and then his band would back him up. So he had a good little niche going. But yeah, he played all my life, and then when I got older, I would go sit in with his band when I come off the road.
So what what kind of music have you always played? Are you a guitar player also, or do you play other instruments?
Yeah, I play just guitar, and I started out. My dad taught me like Ventures, Merle Haggard, things like that. But he taught me Johnny Be Good. He liked that song. But the Ventures was probably the most helpful instrumentals, learning that and got me playing. And I heard Hendrix and Cream and Zeppelin and those acts because we were just right across, the channel from London or from England. And so in 1968, that's what I was playing in Germany with my little band there.
Now, as I interview a lot of relatives, and I'm just a brother, so I've had no really impact on my sister's career, obviously, other than probably being a little more negative on her career than positive. As a dad, because I've interviewed a couple of parents of different actors and different things, you have had an influence or a direction on your child's life and their career. How has that been, and how did you kind of help point him in the direction and keep him in a good spot? Because a lot of parents, they'll sell their kid down the road, but it's like, oh, you're famous, boom, let's go, and then their kid kind of self-destructs.
That's a good question, Chip, because I made a conscious effort not to push him into music. My daughter, Holland King, and Marcus, I just kind of let it happen. And Marcus is an old soul. So when he got a hold of music, listening to music, he liked what I liked. Allman Brothers and Hendrix and all that. And so he gravitated to that like I did in Germany. I had never heard of the blues, believe it or not. It was never introduced to me on Air Force Base. So I missed that part. But all the acts that I was trying to learn were blues-based acts. And Hendrix, and I listened to Johnny Winter in Germany, and of course Cream, and all those bands were blues based. And so when I moved here, after about a year or so, a friend of mine, Rudy Wyatt, we got a band together, and he introduced me to all the blues music, and it was like opening a book. But now Marcus was just an old soul. Like I say, he started out learning like Skinner. I think I taught him Sweet Home Alabama. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to go. I was teaching at the time. I said, I'm going to go teach. And when I get home, we'll go over it. So I got home. I said, did you learn it? Or you got it? He said, yeah, I got the record. And I said, no, son, you mean to say you got the song? He said, no, I learned the whole record. I said, no way, you learned that whole record today. So sure enough, he did. He learned that entire Skinner album in one day. And that just when I thought, whoa, what I got here,
Yeah. So when he kind of came onto the scene in 2014 through a viral video on YouTube of playing at Norman's Guitar Shop. Were you there? Were you? And again, we want to talk a lot about you, but because being the dad, you definitely have more of an influence, or again, have kind of coached or led your son. What was it like in 2014 when it kind of started clicking for him?
Yeah, see, what I did, like on Spotify, I have 3 projects on there. The Calling is the first one. The second one is Huge in Europe, which is totally a joke. I wasn't huge in Greenville. So Marcus is on that record as well as my wife, Leanda. And so I introduced him to playing live that way. And when he played on that project, Huge in Europe, if you guys want to hear Marcus at 11 years old, he plays on my project, and I put asterisk so you could tell him from me at 11 years old. And I was 40 something then, and been playing since I was 5. So usually someone goes in the studio, they play every lick they know on every song, but he was really restrained and probably played better than I did, absolutely, because he was amazingly restrained, and less is more when you play in studio. So that's how I kind of, after that, I said, why don't you just join the band and we'll go out and play? And he said, yeah, really? Okay. So that's how we started. And when he got his band together, they were called Simultaneous Groove. And there was no singing. They did all instrumentals, like Constipated Duck by Beck and Allman Brothers, Liz Reed, and Panic, stuff like that's what he was into. And one day my wife heard someone singing out in the garage when they were practicing. And we had no clue it could be Marcus. And sure enough, it was him singing. And we thought he sounded pretty good, and apparently so does everyone else now. So that's how it kind of, then he played with me at a place here in Greenville. We opened for Johnny Winter at the Handlebar. And so from there, in my band, he evolved to his own band, like I said, and got a little EP of that somewhere around the house here. It's really good. I mean, they're just young kids, but they're really good. And so for me, it was very exciting. I mean, I'm the guy that carried the PV amp to the 5th grade talent show, So for me, this is so surreal as a parent to go from the 5th grade talent show and even earlier to see him now on Jimmy Fallon and be in the audience at Jimmy Fallon. It just blows my mind. It's so gratifying to me as a musician. I worked hard at it, man. I was on the road quite a long time. I was on Polydor, got a record deal with them, and one with Capitol Nashville, but it never amounted to anything. So I've always played guitar, and to see Marcus get to this level is really awesome and surreal.
Yeah, it's got to be very satisfying as a father, but on the flip side, as a musician, like you said, you've had record deals and not quite get that achievement. So it's now all of a sudden you're standing. You were the tree, but all of a sudden now you got to stand in the shadow of your son.
Yeah, that's my new name, Marcus's dad. That's. I'm in the mall, they say, are you Marcus's dad? Yes, I am. Here's the T-shirt.
Yeah. And you have to embrace it. I mean, I do meet people.
I'm so proud of him,
Yeah. Because I have met people and they get a little bitter, like, oh my, their kid did better than them or their brother's done better. It's like you have a great attitude and you're embracing it. Has it helped get your band booked? Has it been good for you guys, or is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I get I'm on this podcast.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good example. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Marcus, and that's. Uh, I think we have a good band. You know, we hold our own, but a lot of people come to see us because I'm Marcus's dad, because they're Marcus King fans, and that's great. I love that. You know, that's a platform I'm honored to be on, and the best. I get a lot of compliments about Marcus, but the greatest compliment to me is when people come up and say, "You raised a really good kid. He's a really good person," and that means more to me. Even being a guitar player, then of course I love the compliments about how well he plays and sings and writes. I don't think he dances too much.
You know, I
Anyway,
what you're saying about when people come and say you raised a great kid. My son's 25 also, and you know, and he's got some great friends. But when I have parents come up and go, "Your son is so polite. He looks me in the eye. He shakes my hand. He has conversations. You did a great job." That just kind of like, you know,
yeah,
as a parent, you go, "Well, thank you. Thank you very much." You know? So
exactly.
did your father ever get a chance to hear Marcus? Has he been able, or did
Okay.
he pass away? Okay.
When he was really young, um, I got out of music when my daughter Holland was born in '93, and I just told the band I think I just want to be a regular dad, and I got a gig with an electrician as a helper, and it was really hard because all I'd ever done play guitar really, and so I just stayed out of it for about 10 years or so, and during that time when I would go to work, my father would he came up with his own system where he would trace his hand on the paper and then thumb 1, 2, 3, 4, and then he would show Marcus how to put that on a fretboard. So he was like the originator of tab,
Oh, wow.
so to speak. But anyway, so Dad started teaching Marcus just like he started teaching me, you know, when I was a real young lad. So Dad did get to hear him play, and he thought, but I wish that my mom and dad and my brother could be here to see Marcus on this level. I do have another brother, Ron King, that's getting to see him like I am, you know, and we're all so proud of him. But I know uh, Dad would love to see him, you know, like on Jimmy Fallon and stuff like that. I mean, it's mind
Yeah.
blowing.
Now you had talked about how there's a video that your dad passed his guitar to you, and you passed the guitar to Marcus.
Yes, sir. Like uh, my dad passed in 2010, and so I got Big Red. It's the serial number says it's a 58 345 Gibson, and when we took it to Gibson Custom Shop, they said it's a 62. So anyway, um, uh, that guitar, when my dad passed, I couldn't even open the case for a year because we were so close. And when I did open it, I could feel the DNA and that smell of the guitar in the case. It was like he was there in the room. So I just teared up and closed it. And I didn't open it again for probably another 6 months to a year. And then I finally could take it out and play it. I think I did maybe 2 gigs where I played it. Phenomenal guitar. Um, and so as Marcus started his climb up the ladder, getting better and better, I just kind of prayed about it. And I think I got Dad's permission because I wanted to give it to Marcus because he was doing something with it. And I was just kind of playing around town. And so I offered it to Marcus, if, you know, don't wait till I die because it's hard to play that way. So I give it to him. It's on YouTube and on my Instagram page. If you want to see the video of, I had my friend Duma Morgan document it on a video of me, and on my Instagram page, I did a little kind of life of Big Red, where it started with Dad. He's in Air Force in Great Falls, Montana, and he had bleeding ulcers. The doctor said, "Sarge, you better get a hobby." And he said, "Well, I don't play golf or anything. I used to play music." So he said, "Well, you better start back." And that's when he bought Big Red and a Blackface Super Reverb, which is like the best rig you could have right there. He didn't realize it, but he bought a super rig, you know. And so anyway, that's how it got passed down. You know, when my dad passed away, I got it, and I decided to give it to Marcus. And that in of itself is a good story, because by giving it to Marcus, he got notoriety in the business enough to where Gibson made that guitar a Gibson guitar. It's like the Marcus King ES345. And that's making my dad historical figure through Marcus, which, you know, that's unbelievable.
That's phenomenal, man. And it's a beautiful guitar. What's your daughter think about what's going on? Does she get a little jealous, or is she musically inclined?
Her name's Holland, like the country, but we call her Holly. And I played a gig not long ago, and my daughter was with me standing there, and someone said, "Well, who are you?" And she said, "I'm Marcus' sister." And the guy said, "I didn't know Marcus had a sister." So I said, "Oh man, wish he hadn't said that." I want everyone to know that he has a sister. She's a beautiful young woman, and she's awesome. But, you know, that's just the way it is. You're Vanna White's brother, you know. How you're doing this podcast, and you're going to get to where people know you. But until you are on something together, people don't really know who your family is, you know.
Yeah, I have a brother, and, you know, again, very few people will go, "Well, you're Vanna's brother. How come I don't know about you?" And, you know, Joe he didn't really grow up with us, and he lives in New York, and he's, you know, had his own life, and it's not like he spent a lot of time in front of the camera, where I've actually been able to spend some time with Vanna where he hasn't. So it's kind of like, oh wait, you know, I didn't know Vanna had a brother, or didn't know you had a brother. It's like, it's not intentional. It's just the way kind of things go. Yeah.
And I feel bad for Holly, because I want everyone to know her too, you know. And it's just the way it is, you know. You can't rewrite history. And I wish that I'm trying my best to, like, even right here, I'm glad you asked that question. That's a good one.
Well, you know what? I may have to have Holly on, because she and I can probably relate a little bit more than you and I, because
I told her that. I said, "Well, you know, he may want to interview you, so you better get ready." I don't know.
Absolutely. Now, I know we talked a little bit on the phone about, you know, life as a musician and some of the ups and downs. How's your career been? And, you know, we talked about the experimental years that we had, and definitely you had some. Are you open to talking about that? Are you open to, like, we talked about how you know, telling our story helps other people?
I've gone to, my wife and I have gone to rehab, and I spoke to the people there about my pharmaceutically checkered past, which is pretty long list. You know, the only thing I didn't do was heroin. I drew the line there, thank God, but I did, you know, the gambit of everything else through the years. And so one of the talks with Marcus I had wasn't concerning so much music as drugs and alcohol, because I definitely went down that road, and it's hard to get off of that road. And so from the get-go, he was so young, he probably didn't even really grasp what I was talking about. But I worried mostly about that, because I know once you get out there and people like the way you play or whatever, they offer it to you. And on the road, you get tired, you get lonely. It's not a glamorous life. Matter of fact, I always wanted to write the song between the stages, because on the stage is the only time you're happy in a 24-hour time span. And to feel good to play, you usually turn to substance abuse of some kind. And so that was my biggest concern for Marcus, I think, from the beginning of his career to today. And
Yeah,
he's doing
it's
pretty well right now. He's clean and sober, and it's something that all of us as musicians or actors or whatever have to deal with, because it's there, you know.
yeah,
So
it's definitely, except people offer it. They want to have that connection.
yeah,
And I'm not a musician. My wife's a musician, but I've hauled her gear around a lot, and I know that we were in that scene, and definitely as his career goes, people are more and more, and that's great that you had that conversation with him. You know, I worry about my son. I always say, like, dude, you're on your path, you're on your journey. Just
exactly.
remember
That's
the
right.
genes.
That's, Eric Clapton told Stevie Ray, "Look, you need to quit. You're going too far." You know, he got real sick in London, and but even one of his heroes telling him to quit, it doesn't work like that. It's your path. You have to decide to do it, or it'll defeat you every time. You got to make up your mind and go for it. And I'm I'm a type of person. I have addictive personality. So even after I got clean, had a surgery, and I had a bout with painkillers, and that's lasted almost up to the present. Right now, I'm totally off of them, but it's not been easy.
Yeah,
So it's still, even after all those years, I mean, I was totally clean and sober like 20 years or so. And then when they offered me those painkillers, it was like, oh, right, I can do this. And no one noticed. And I got my buzz. And it's like, I'm not hurting anybody. And I'm not getting all strung out and partying. So I used it for energy, you know?
yeah,
And so my hand wouldn't hurt. I got a lot of arthritis. I got a ton of excuses.
yeah.
Bottom line
Don't we?
is, don't do it. Just don't do it, you know?
So you were talking about writing a song between the stages. That's a great title. Do you write a lot? Have you ever
Yeah,
written anything that you and Marcus worked together on stuff? Or
he wants to do a record with me and him. And he got me up to Nashville, and some of the greatest writers up there wrote with me and him for the record. But, time is so fleeting with Marcus. He's so busy. So we're going to get around to doing it, I know. But yeah, I write, but not on the level that Marcus can write. Marcus has a gift like a Bob Dylan kind of, they can write about an ashtray and you totally get it. And if I write a song about the ashtray, it won't be as in depth, or you won't see the ashtray through the lyrics. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Well, I challenge you to write the song between the stages because it's a great topic.
I think I will.
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot, and then Marcus will write it.
Well, we're getting close to running out of time. I always kind of like to ask the question at the end, and it may lead to others, but what did I not ask you, or what did we not talk about that you really would like people to know, or about you, about your relationship? What is something that I didn't ask or that you want people to know?
Uh, that is a hard one. I'm not sure. I think you covered most of the bases, but um, I can't think of one. I'm sorry.
That's okay. What would you like the future to hold for your musical career and your band? I know you said you wanted to play a little bit more outside of Greenville. How far do you want to go? Do you guys want to do Texas? You want to do LA? You want to just stick around the Carolina coast?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to get on the next level. Like do Orange Peel up in Asheville and the Poorhouse in Charleston, places like that, little bigger venues. And yeah, I'd like to play all over the United States, but in Europe. But that would take a lot of notoriety for people to get us out there without knowing who we are,
Right.
But that'd be great. That would be a Christmas wish for next year.
Well, I'll challenge JT Floors and Green Hall to bring you out to Texas here.
Cool.
There's a
All
few
right.
places in Kerrville. You get you some Texas roots going.
Yeah, man, that'd be awesome.
Well, man, I appreciate your time, and it's good to talk to a fellow South Carolinian.
Thanks a lot for having me on.
I hope your band takes off, and again, tell Holly that I'm going to be calling her next go around. We'll get her in. I want to hear the sister's point of view on what her brother's doing.
Yeah, and I definitely want to thank my wife, Leanne King, for setting up this Skype, because we wouldn't be having this conversation. So I don't know how to do this, and she set it up for us.
Thank you for that. Now, let's backtrack a second. You said that she was on your record. Is
Yeah.
she musically inclined? Tell me a little bit about your wife here real quick.
Yeah, she's a really good singer and plays guitar, and that's how we met. I was teaching her son, Cliff, and when he took a break, she said, "Could you teach me? Because I just finger pick. I want to use a pick." So that's how we met, really, in a lesson. And so on Huge in Europe, which is the second, let me cut this off, was the second record on Spotify. Leanda's on that one. And then on the third record, that's our record. We did that as a duo, Leanda and I. And you'll hear her voice on that, and you hear how good of a singer she is, and I'm real proud of her as well.
Well, we'll look all that up on Spotify and put it in the show notes so people can give it a link and a listen. And again,
Thank you.
Marvin, I really appreciate your time today. It's been fun chatting, and what a great musical legend legacy story. And I'm super proud of, even though I don't know your son, I'm super proud of what he's done. And you know what? He represents South Carolina with a good heart and with great intention. And it's my home state. I love that.
Right. I can't thank you enough for having me on and allowing me to voice my point of view of the whole ride.
Well,
thanks a lot.
Hey, enjoy the ride, man. We'll chat again soon.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks. And that was great. Thank you, Marvin. And I want to thank you, the viewer, the listener, for watching and listening, taking time out of your day. I'm humbly grateful that you would do that. I hope you'll subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell everyone about the podcast. If you are related to someone famous and you want to be on the show, or you know someone famous that would like to be on the show, or their relative, reach out to me at podcastrelativelyfamous@gmail.com. I want to thank Nelco Media and Nelco Comics for the location. I want to thank Philip Nelson, my producer. I want to thank our sponsor, that's visitmyrtlebeach.com. And, Myrtle Beach is a very family-friendly, and they call it sensitive family-friendly for families with autism. They have a new show coming out that they are part of called Traveling the Spectrum. It's a 6-part series that's going to be live streaming on Peacock. Do check that out. That's Traveling the Spectrum. And if you do have an autistic child or someone on the spectrum and you want a vacation, visit myrtlebeach.com. That's visitmyrtlebeach.com. Has great detail on how the city will help you enjoy a vacation there. So plan your vacation at visitmyrtlebeach.com. Thanks, everyone.
You've been listening to Relatively Famous with Chip White. Please like and subscribe to Relatively Famous with Chip White.